But is he the best player in this draft on his own? Without a doubt.
Please show me a better example of a Bruce Arians quarterback.
Hello and welcome back to Tank Observers. My name is Jackson McCarty here with my partner Chris Spar. And today, Chris, run them down a little bit of what we're doing.
So we're going to go over our quarterback big board, and we're going to talk about class superlatives.
Everybody loved these in high school or despised them, depending on which side of the gate you fell on. I personally loved them.
I thought they were hilarious. I think that these will be very accurate comps and very great, just great choices.
Because, of course, you can analyze the quarterback room however you feel, but this is a nice little twist that we sat down, we thought about them, drew some comparisons to, the jocks in high school. Obviously, all of these guys are jocks, but we kind of separated them into their own little categories. First off, Joe Burrow. Feels like the most obvious one. He is the prom king.
Joe Burrow is the prom king. He is the clear-cut number one guy. He's the most popular kid in school. Everyone wants him, and I think the Bengals are going to get him at number one.
Exactly. It just fits so well. It's the highest pick. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what prom king means. It's the cream of the crop.
Yeah, everyone wants him. Everyone wants to be him.
Exactly.
And he's the guy.
Yeah, and that one doesn't take a whole lot to explain. I don't feel.
No.
Tua recently, his hip injury completely healed. He hasn't started football relations yet. But it looks like he'll be good to go for the combine. But obviously he has been set back by those injuries. His stock's dropped a little bit. We went most likely to be late for graduation.
Yeah, he's gonna hit the field. He might be a little late hitting the field. But if he's drafted ready to go, I think with the hip injury, he'll still probably take he'll take a few games, maybe even a year to get into that full form we were expecting from him early on.
And whether or not you're the first one there, you're getting the diploma either way.
Yeah, no, because like if you look at our last video, we had him going number 5 to the Dolphins, hip injury or otherwise. He's still going to be up there, but he's going to be a little late getting back.
Yeah, and we'll watch him make sure that he lands in the right situation. That'll be a big point. Find somebody that he can sit behind. Ryan Fitzpatrick, hopefully still on that roster next year. But next up, Justin Herbert. What are we thinking about Justin?
Justin Herbert looks so good on paper. Everyone is looking at this guy. He's got that QB frame. He's big and athletic. He's standing about 6'6", and he's quick. He's gonna go run a pretty solid 4.40 time for a quarterback. But looking at his tape, there's not much to gawk about outside of that athleticism. He is the field day MVP.
He's got all the intangibles that you want. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. We've seen him run the ball. It's just when the lights are bright, maybe it's not quite there yet, but he has all the makings to be the guy that you pick first in kickball.
Yeah, he's that big athletic dude. You're like, man, I want him on my team. But then you get him and you're like, maybe we didn't look too deep into this guy.
Definitely a work in progress, but I definitely like that comparison. One of my favorite superlatives that we have.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Jacob Eason, coming out of Washington.
Yes, Jacob Eason out of Washington. That big, strong arm. He's got that high ceiling. He looks the part of an NFL quarterback too. I like him. He's very malleable, coachable guy. So most likely to succeed.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to disagree with this one, more or less because he's not as by the book as Tua is. He doesn't have those same clean mechanics, that same general process that works for everybody. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not the most flashy guy. Not going to be that top pick, but I feel like Eason, he's going to be great for the locker room. Morale-wise, he's shown that he's a very good leader. He's going to come in. He's going to work with whoever's there. If he can get that Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning-like footwork where he's just constantly moving around, it's hard to watch this. You won't be able to find very many passes where he's missing and his feet are moving.
Yeah, he loves to throw under pressure, it seems like. He holds the ball a little long. I feel like he's got great potential, but he might need a grooming year. He might need, I believe you like him going to Tampa, and they're
Bruce Arians guy.
yeah, he's a Bruce Arians quarterback.
He is.
You know, if you get him to sit behind Phillip Rivers because that's one of his top landing spots, that'll be a perfect situation for him.
And Eason is my comp for Jacob Eason is Phillip Rivers. I very much compare the two, just with that natural throwing power, a little bit of a wonky throw as well. Not quite in the same definition, but definitely seems a little off about the mechanic, but it still works. And I think that you give him a little bit of a breather, you let him work with the coaches, he's going to be able to fix some of those mistakes. Obviously, whenever he does get rushed and he doesn't quite have that side movement, doesn't have somebody to drop off to, it's either going to be a fumble or it's going right in the ground. He's a pretty hard quarterback to bring down, though. He's got decent size. But, yeah, I like the most likely to succeed. You give him a year to study that playbook, and I think he'll treat you right.
Yeah, you know, I definitely like that comp for him. And let's move on. One of my favorite guys. You know, I love the Georgia quarterbacks ever since Matt Stafford. You know, I watch them, and you know, I really like them. We even see Aaron Murray in the XFL. But at number 5, we got Jake Fromm, and like I said, from Georgia. You know, I like him a lot. He's a money game manager, if you ask me.
Yeah, he shows all the right things on tape. His arm's not the greatest, and that's his biggest hindrance, I would say. But he's
Deep throws.
very good at working the field. Extremely good at working the field. He knows exactly where it needs to be within the 20 yards and closer to him. He's got that just on lock.
Yeah, it's a really he's got a nice looking game. He looks like he's really comfortable when he's in the pocket.
Yeah.
And if he has the time, he could pick you apart on the intermediate routes.
Oh, yeah. Every day of the week.
That's his bread and butter. So, with all that being said,
Do you want me to say it, or you got this one?
best to take home to mom and dad.
Absolutely.
Jake Fromm.
1000%. He's the safe option. You know he's going to do you right. He's never going to step out of the boundaries. Mom and dad will love him.
Yeah, you know, he's just he's just got that look to him. He's not gonna win you the game, but he's not gonna do anything that'll make you lose it.
No.
He's perfect.
He's just he's going to do it exactly by the book. That might be my favorite superlative.
Oh, it is. It really is. You know, if you put a nice defense behind him, give him a running game, some great, you know, just even halfway decent receiving options, he'll be a perfect quarterback to try to bring an already set team to the playoffs.
Minnesota, I know we've talked about that one. That would be a good fit for him. Not as good of a fit as somebody we have later on this board that we'll get to later, but love Jake Fromm. That would be a very good spot for Thielen. I couldn't imagine how many yards Thielen would be getting.
You know, two places that I was actually thinking recently that would be a perfect landing spot for him. If he went to the Chargers.
Yeah, Keenan Allen.
Or if he went to Indy. But you could send any quarterback to Indy.
I could probably go play in Indy and look serviceable. That O-line is just built to win, and they need to win. They need to go ahead and get their guy and see what Tom Brady decides on. I'm not sure if that's a premier destination, but that could be a very special fit for whatever quarterback lands there. Next up, we have Jordan Love. A little bit farther down our boards here, as we did kind of do these in order. I have Eason above Herbert. Let Topher take the win on this one. But Jordan Love, the more tape that we watched on him, it's like, where did the quarterback from junior season go?
Yeah, you know, he's a taller, big-framed guy, good athleticism, you know. He's another one. A lot of these guys just have that quarterback look that you love to see when you're making a pick, and he's one of them. And not to mention, you put the wheels under that, this guy could work around the pocket. But all that being said, this senior season was not what we saw in his junior year. So with that being said, our superlative is the biggest prankster, because he had us all fooled thinking that he was going to be this guy. He's going to come into this senior season and he's going to be like the number 2 quarterback on the board, because, you know, at the time we didn't know about Burrow yet.
Yeah, it was between Tua, Herbert, and Love was the sneak pick.
Yeah, so we see this in his junior year, But now he comes into the senior year and he's a completely different player.
It's definitely bizarre because he definitely tricked us all with how he came out in senior season. It's almost like he set aside and said, I wonder how far my stock would drop if I just kind of hung out this season. And maybe it is because of his surroundings. And it is difficult. We're being at Utah State, not the most talented group, but you're also not going up against scary defenses. You're not going up against future NFLers, realistically. You're going, because like you look at Eason, Fromm, Tua, Burrow. That's SEC and Pac-12, and as well as Herbert. All of those guys looked serviceable, even if they had worse players around them. Obviously, Tua and Burrow, they were far and away. They had NFL players.
Those were premier teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, they showed that
But they're
they
going
could
up against premier teams.
run with that talent.
Yeah, they were going up against premier teams. They were going up against the Derek Lewises of Auburn, and they were going up against the Clavon Chasons in Tua's case, and Terrell Lewis on the flip side of the coin. But you can see the struggles, and obviously his coach left last season, and he had to kind of adapt to a new situation. But it felt like he wasn't really working with them. So yeah, biggest prankster. I feel like that one fits the tale of the past 24 months or so. Next up, we have Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Oklahoma. He's just so versatile. He's a leader. He's a versatile talent. Probably one of the most exciting prospects we have coming in.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to see this guy in the combine. He is going to be fantastic to watch. He's a phenomenal product. And, I think that the move from Alabama to Oklahoma, it really did wonders for him.
Yeah.
And I think it was an easy choice for this superlative. There was another one that we might have thought could work, but we decided to go with most creative.
Yeah, we played around with a couple of them. He was almost the field day MVP at a certain time. We considered like track star kind of thing. But
Class president.
Yeah, class president. That one would have worked because he's a out and out leader. He is the guy. Like whatever locker room he is in, he's commanding that presence. And yeah, I do definitely agree that the Oklahoma switch with Lincoln Riley helped him out in the long run. I don't think he necessarily capitalized on the hype that we had because he was one of the Heisman frontrunners coming into the season. And it felt like he definitely still has all those traits. But this might be, I don't want to say the worst job that Lincoln Riley's done out of the past 3-4 years with his new quarterback. But, you kind of have to say that because Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield were what came before him.
No doubt. I know what you mean. He's had 2 straight Heisman winners with those two. And he could have had a third if Joe Burrow didn't just outright run college football for a season. I'm not sure if you can really put that much blame on Jalen Hurts because, frankly, he was still in that Heisman race without a doubt. He was probably number 2, in my opinion.
Eileen Fields. Dare I say that Chase Young was also higher. Even with those 2 missed games, there was just something to be said about what he was doing. And I know defensive players aren't typically Heisman winners, but I do think he faltered more, and I don't even really think you can call it faltering. I think he just suffered more from the fact that all these guys showed out this year.
And that's not to say he didn't, because he did.
Absolutely.
He showed out. He was a great player. He really was. This year, he dragged that defense as far as they went.
Yeah.
That was all him, and he balled out. It's just everyone else looked that good.
I say it was him and CD, and then exactly. Creed Humphrey was helping a little bit there, block up that. But no, most creative. That feels because whenever he has that ball, he's going to get shifty with it, and he's going to get very, very different, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that let's we could end on that and move on to number 8 now. Anthony Gordon.
Air raid guy. You look at him, and obviously those stats really jump off the board, but when you're throwing that many times a game, they better be jumping off something. And it's such a difficult player for me to grade because I do really enjoy his traits, and his tape looks good. But the air raid system, I don't like it. I don't think that it produces NFL quarterbacks. And it's been more effective here recently. Gardner Minshew, obviously last year, coming from the exact same team. Mike Leach, same coach, knew exactly what he was doing and got Minshew where he needed to be. But you have to consider the fact that there's always exceptions to the rules. That doesn't mean that the rules are changing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know as much about this guy as I wish I did.
Yeah.
And from what I do know, he's got some legs. He's kind of a smaller in QB at like 6'2", barely 200 pounds.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to like there.
Yeah.
And you look at the air raid offense that recently got to the NFL.
Yeah.
In Arizona.
Which, how'd that do for him?
And it's a tough comparison to draw there. But I think there's a chance because, like you said, Gardner Minshew coming from the same place.
Yep.
And we saw him succeed.
Yeah.
Arguably the best quarterback as a rookie last year.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler fans will go with you there. I personally preferred Minshew's play.
I thought Minshew was, less interceptions, more touchdowns.
Yeah.
There's like I said, a lot to like.
If you could have just been the last 2 weeks, I think Dwayne Haskins was far and away the best. But, yeah, no, with the total, looking at the Redskins jersey, giving away that bias there. But, no, I mean, it's just Minshew took what he learned at Washington State, and if Anthony Gordon can do that exact same thing, I could see Chicago drafting him, and if Trubisky starts, staying the exact same as he was last year, if that wasn't just a sophomore slump, Anthony Gordon coming in and playing for Matt Nagy, I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Well, I think we spent enough time just talking about him. Superlative?
Life of the party. The air raid system. Throw it, you got to keep on going, you're going to have a whale of a time. And Anthony Gordon was, quite frankly, the face of the air raid scheme this season. You had to give it to him.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like I said, I haven't seen too much on him, but what I did, life of the party, just it might just be the best one for him.
Yeah, these last 2 that we have, me and Topher decided that we were going to take a quarterback that we had each seen a little bit more tape on than the other, kind of break it down into them. Haven't talked a whole lot about our quarterbacks yet. I picked Cole McDonald. He picked Brian Lewerke. I'm going to let you go ahead and lead off with Brian Lewerke.
So my favorite thing about him is also one of the worst things about him. His inconsistency made him so much fun to watch. And that's not necessarily a knock because he had some of the highest highs in college football. Because when he was on, there wasn't a better quarterback in college football. He was just phenomenal. And I know that's a stretch.
I feel like I'm
sure if you're watching this, you've seen a Michigan State game, and I might be exaggerating there. But
I feel like the LSU hate emails are coming in as we speak, and this isn't even live yet.
Well, yeah, and that is up for debate. I won't lie, but he just looked so good at times, and at times there weren't quarterbacks that were worse than him. But in all of that, there's a lot there. There's a lot to work with. You coach him up, get rid of some of those really bad, knocks on his game.
Yeah.
And, you're left with a solid QB. There's just so much, there's so much coachability there. The way that he moves around the pocket, there's a lot that you see where you're like, you know what, if I can just get rid of that and keep this, which I know is a lot to ask. There's a solid QB in there.
Yeah, I can understand that one. Which superlative did you end up deciding on for?
Teacher's pet. For one thing, just look up a picture of him. He looks like a teacher's pet, but that's not why. He's a good locker room presence because he leads by example.
Okay.
And he spends a lot of time in the film room, and the coaches just love him there.
But I say, as far as teacher's pet goes, like in high school, it's more of a shade being thrown at you. And this one, I feel like it just means hard worker.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that you'll just see him in the film room before practice every day.
Yeah.
And so teacher's pet, maybe shade thrown at you in high school, but when it comes to the football field, it just means that you're a hard worker and you want to be the best that you can be. And at times he was. So gotta give credit where credit's due.
All right, and now moving on to Cole McDonald, our last superlative on the list. I think that a lack of competition overall has really hurt his stock, but from what I've seen, his tape jumps off the screen to me. I watched a lot of Boise State games last year. I'm a big fan of Hank Bachmeier. He's only a freshman right now. But obviously watching for like Curtis Weaver and those types of players that are eligible. I watched the Hawaii game. I hadn't heard of Cole McDonald to that point. And I'm glad that I watched that game because I went back and then I watched their BYU game. Phenomenal. And I just kept watching tape. And it feels like almost like, and you can't really even say it because Carson Wentz ended up going second overall. But North Dakota State, they weren't getting the level of competition that anyone else was, realistically. And it was just so impressive because he's very good at, even if it's a design play, let's say it's going to, let's just stick with jerseys on the wall. Let's say it's going to Jeff Janis. It's a designed Jeff Janis play. And the Jeff Janis is running down the field, and he might get open in 2-3 seconds, maybe a couple steps. But Cordarrelle Patterson is chilling out on the just on a dump route with maybe 10 yards behind him. He's hitting Cordarrelle Patterson 10 times out of 10 because he knows that that's getting the first down. He knows that he's a wide open target, and it's going to make the big play. And that's why I ended up giving him most courteous because he's, no matter what the play is, he's always checking who's around him and what other options there are.
I saw his Christmas Eve game.
Yep.
Because it was the only one on. Not a lot of people go out of their way to watch Hawaii unless you live there.
No offense, Hawaii fans.
Yes, Hawaii fans, we love you equally.
If there's any in existence.
We love you just as much as the rest, but if you're the only game on, that's pretty much the only time I'm watching it. It's not a team I go out of my way to see, but I did see that game, and he is one of those guys. He doesn't pass up an open receiver.
No.
And that is such a favorable trait because a lot of times you have to teach your guys to do that. You see just a dump route, like you said. A lot of guys will be like, yeah, but like he's got like a step.
Yeah.
And so I'll just chuck it and see if I could reach him. Sam Darnold just started doing it this year, and it showed improvement in his game. It's one of those things he improved on that, gave him a little bit of an edge. And, he just didn't pass up open receivers, and that is such a good thing to have.
One big note that I had on our list, obviously, I said, didn't let poor talent surroundings hinder his season. And then in brackets, I put cough, cough, Jordan Love. But that's not the highlight of that note. The highlight was that he was more a beacon of what was around him. He made other players better. He was handing out opportunity to these kids, and a lot of them got looks because of Cole McDonald's play.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you can raise the level of talent around you by being a better player, you should be getting more looks. And that is something that I wish we saw more for Cole McDonald, more looks, because, maybe I would have known about him before that game.
Yeah. And it's just, like I said, obviously on that note, poor talent surroundings, bad, or not, I wouldn't say bad, but they're not a premier conference. You're going in and you're not really seeing a lot from defenses. You're not catching NFL level talent. And maybe it was because he is a little bit more advanced that he knew how to get those receivers past. Maybe it was the coach. Maybe we're overlooking that. But I feel like he was really, other than tightening up his spiral, there wasn't a lot that I saw in his game that I disliked.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's one thing to play well against bad competition, but not playing down to your competition is another very important factor that you have to see in certain players, not just quarterbacks. Because if you have a great D-end and he's going up against a poor tackle, he could still have a weak game just playing down to that D-end if he's thinking, all right, this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
But, that's another thing. Cole didn't take it easy on his opponents. He was 100% all the time.
He was invested. But no, that wraps up our superlatives. Next episode, we're going to be doing running back superlatives. Rather than give y'all a mock draft every week, feel like spice it up, let you know a little bit more about these players that you'll be hearing as we get a little bit closer to draft time. But yeah, that's been it for this episode. My name's Jackson McCarty.
I am Chris Barr.
We'll see you next time.